The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Walang adlaw ka natong tanan. It's an interesting to note that in the book of the prophet Jonah, very short book, there are certain imageries that actually are taken into perspective. In fact, if you really study the book of the prophet Jonah, there is always an interesting dimension for it to be a comedy. So it's actually something that tickles your fancy as well. Now, not only at the very beginning of the book, but also in today's reading that we have. Imagine you have to have the animals fast as well. Okay, so isn't it funny? So it's supposed to be like that. But then beyond the tickling of the image, there is an interesting message that brings us back to the very moment of creation. Why did the king of Nineveh, for example, proclaim a fast, not only for human beings, but also for the animals? Because when God created the heavens and the earth, on the very sixth day, God created not only man, but also the animals. And this is a little something of a connection just to make us review what we have learned in scriptures. Because if we do not care about what is presented there, anyway, they were fasting and they were forgiven. No, there are certain dimensions, and this is one thing I always tell my students, to appreciate the narratives in the scriptures. They are written there so that we can discover so many truths, and from the truths, we can make an even more deeper reflection. And so, the very fasting that was the response of the Ninevites actually caused God to forgive them. And we have a very beautiful expression here. He repented for the evil. No? Imagine God repenting. But of course, repenting there is something like relenting. No? Meaning to say, he did not go with the decision. He changed his mind. Now, it is also in a constant connection. We have just recently read our gospel reading today about the two sisters, Martha and Mary. But it is a constant reminder that there are two kinds of responses we can give. And these two kinds of responses boil down to one thing: hospitality. Hospitality in the sense of serving physically, doing the things, the act of hospitality, and another aspect of hospitality, which is listening. Hospitality as regards the words and the message. That's why the last part of the gospel reading today, we hear Mary has chosen the better part. Why better? Why not best? Because better means there is a challenge to make a balance between listening to the word and doing after listening to it. This actually describes the two dimensions of Christian life: contemplative and active. And we can actually fuse the two into, I have just created the word, contemplative life. Contemplative and active at the same time. It's not only just praying and praying and praying. We also have to do. But if we do not pray and we just are doing something, that's activism. But if we are also like praying all the time and not doing something that's meaningfully, but sometimes questionable, ritualizing or ritualism. So there has to be a balance between the two. And this is what we have to take into perspective and try our best to strike that balance, because it is in the balance that we find virtue. As the Greeks would say, virtue stands in between. In the middle way stands virtue. Amen.